Welcome, and welcome. Hello, this is Planet Collingwood. My name is Monty Dean. You are on Revolution Radio Studio A. A big thanks to Why Not and Co. for the last 2 hours for the Y-Files, or Roundtable, or whatever they call it nowadays. I don't know. I don't keep up with these kids these days. I have no idea what yeet means. I did look it up, but I've forgotten. If you enjoyed the last 2 hours, please go to friendslips.com and or revolution.radio and click on the Patreon button and give what you can. We're 100% listener supported, so the reason that we're still on air is because of you, dear listener. So if you can spare 5, 7, well, I usually say a cup of coffee, so $25, and you help out the station. We move forward. We're all 100% volunteers as well. And while you're at the website, pop into the merch, see what you like to wear: t-shirts, onesies for the little ones, mouse pads, all that type of stuff. And then pop into the chat room and just watch it slowly tick by, because it's bloody Collingwood time and no one talks during my show because they're laughing so hard they can't actually reach the keyboard. And what a week we have to talk about as well, where I've got my jerry can from Ottawa, as well as a crack pipe from the Biden administration. So I see Hunter's got another job. And I think in New York, apparently the mayor doesn't know. He can't tell the difference if someone's high on cheese or high on heroin. So that's only the starting point. That's 3 points. We can talk about anything we like. And I've been joined by Bruce MacDonald and Raz. Cortek will be popping in about half an hour. He's in transit at this point in time. He messaged me and said he's up the coast. I don't think that's a euphemism. I think he's actually traveling somewhere. So gentlemen,
hello.
What does that look like for Cortek transit? What are we talking about there? Bicycle, walking, public transport, bus?
I would say a private vehicle. So he's not traveling in a commercial sense.
Well, what would we be looking at in that sub bracket then? Toyota Corolla, 1992, 93.
Maybe the classic Datsun 180B. Yeah, they're built. Yeah, they're built to last. So I don't know. We'll have to find out. Yeah. Well, especially, we live in clown world, so yeah. Some of the you've got the Joe Rogan and gentlemen, no swearing or rude words, because the station made an agreement with the FCC to go on air, and so I made an agreement to have a show with the station, so it's a knock-on effect, so we can't break those rules. If you want to be an anarchist, we can go off air and talk about anything you like. However, we got the Joe Rogan N-word debacle, and then in 48 hours later, the Biden administration giving out free crack pipes. There's no connection. And just the weird has Justin Trudeau has been cited, came out, insulted, I think, every Canadian, and then went back in his hole. Oh, and Raz, you're not broadcasting from a washing machine this week. You survived the cyclone, hurricane, typhoon, storm.
Yeah, the name was Batsirai, and winds that reach 230 kilometers per hour. So that's like well over 300 miles per hour. And it entered Madagascar and killed like 20 people already.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah,
that's how you want to start off a comedy show, with a death.
Exactly.
Hey, can I tell you about my most triumphant Twitter moment in months now?
All right.
Yes, you can.
So for reasons unbeknownst to me, a Sarah Silverman tweet popped up in my thread. I don't know, maybe somebody I know liked it or something. And I'm just getting used to Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. I've been on Facebook since 2007, but my social media didn't go too far until Monty, I got this iPhone 13 mini. I'll tell you, everything changed.
I don't know. Maybe because you're using it so much. I don't know if there's a connection. But Twitter, if you got the right mindset, Twitter is a gift. You just have to remember not to react too much, and it's a comedic battlefield. So continue.
I love Twitter. Lots of people hate it, but I love it. Bruce, tell us what happened.
So you know how if you don't say too much, they blow up the characters a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get a bigger size font. So this very cryptic tweet she threw out, and it just said, "Everyone is so sad, period." And I responded, "Have you asked Jesus for help?" ?
For those playing at home, Sarah Silverman is a Jewish type person. I think she has the DNA of the Jewish tribes from 2,000 to 5,000 years ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Don't go further than that. We've
No,
seen
no.
we've seen what happened to that manlet Rogan, and recently I think like in the last 24 hours they dug that he said sex with little boys is okay or something.
Yeah, the professors come out with that. That didn't end well.
So I really don't have any dog in that Abrahamic theological dogfight there between the Hebrews and the Christians. I'm just a third party insider for personal amusement.
Well, I mean, you really, if you use critical thinking, like the only, I don't know why we're on this path, but the Jewish people of the Jewish faith don't believe that he's the Son of God. He's not the Messiah. But that doesn't mean you ignore everything else that he said. He's like a prophet. I think he's even acknowledged in Islam. It's like, hey, he's not the God, but he's got some good ideas. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't see. I mean, there's comedic value, but also, what's wrong with saying you're Jewish? But have you talked to Jesus? I'm not saying you have to bow down and say he's Lord, but that kid's got some good ideas out there. Love, love everybody, respect everything.
Yeah, you can't go wrong following those gospels. It's a difficult recipe, though. Takes extreme commitment. I can hardly finish a TV series these days, Monty. I'm not cut out to be a Christian.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
So, what's on your mind, gentlemen?
I'm just one day at a time. One day at a time.
Monty joined Narcotics Anonymous, ladies and gentlemen. Narcotics Anonymous.
It's
really just an
anonymous.
excuse to escape the strict COVID restrictions in Melbourne and meet at a church basement and maybe hook up with a chick.
Well, yeah, it's like, hey, they've been high before, so there is temptation. That came out wrong. But our premier has come out and said he's trying to bump up the meaning of vaccination to 3 doses instead of 2.
Yeah.
And because in the infinite wisdom, Australia is opening up to international visitors. And I'm like, okay, that's, I mean, it's totally economic. It's not about health because, like, there's a global pandemic. Oh, well, we'll let people move around. Same thing happened to Victoria, where we've nearly zero. We've only got cases and it's not spreading. Let's open our borders. And oh no, we've got cases and it's spreading. I wonder if there's a connection.
Yeah.
However, our infinite, chairman Dan, because I watched Stephen Crowder and he did like a dictator off, like which one's worse. And this chap Mao, he's a real bastard. Like Hitler's like the poster boy. Like no. Mao, 45 million people died in famine in 3 years because kill the sparrows. Anyway, my point being, Chairman Dan has said that international visitors can come into Victoria if they've got 3 doses. And the rest of the planet's only getting 2 doses. So tourism's going to drop hard.
Yeah.
This is what I don't get. Will we ever stop talking about those black and white era politicians and woke personalities? Like ever? Will we ever?
No,
or
there's a lesson.
Something we're doomed to.
Well, see, no, they've tried that. They've tried that with the Hitler history. The channel with the H in the corner. It's always Hitler. But then there's Pol Pot. There's the guy in Malaysia or Indonesia. There is so much worse. But the point is that if it's a distraction, yes, it's bad. But you kind of have to remember history so it doesn't happen again. And short answer, no, you will still keep bringing it up because it's a learning lesson of not one person shouldn't have so much power.
Yeah.
We have 8,000 years worth of history. I mean, there's a lot of characters in it. We had women on horseback. We had naked people fighting. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
it's
evolved.
Always the same Stalin.
No. It's different now. Like you just described the WWE, but it's televised. It's instead of actually live. So, I mean, what we're seeing is the fall of the Roman Empire, but it's got Wi-Fi.
Yeah. 5G. It's almost like a 3D simulation.
Yeah, this holodeck's
Almost
weird.
like. It's
Almost, yeah.
almost like, yeah, it's almost like, it's not like, it's almost.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because we integrate through the programming through our potential as a God creator, and that's how we are trapped into a form of simulation because we give over consent. You can see why I'm not allowed to teach at kindergarten anymore.
Yeah, you might walk in and be like, kids, today we're gonna talk about paradox, remedy, reality, disunity, time, unity, consciousness. Everyone, raise your hand. Who understood what I just said?
Now, last week we talked about genocide time wars, and I know you all
Yeah.
love that. So, yeah. Oh, did you? I did mention at the start, jerry cans from Ottawa. I think the Ottawa police have stopped taking fuel, but they made it. They stole fuel, and so it went out to people started bringing fuel in for the
Yeah,
truckers
people started
using
bringing-
jerry cans, and then they said, "Oh, anyone that has a jerry can will be arrested for mischief." Like, yeah, that's a legal term. Yeah, arson, murder, mischief.
Yours truly did make an appearance, all shaky. He didn't exactly comment on the truck directly. He kept talking about the jab and the mandates and the everything. He was very evasive with his words. He tried some political speak in there, but everyone was just quite happy to see him and quite, you know, how can I put this? Relief that he's all shaky and truly, pissing his pants, to put it the
Yes,
least.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
now the interesting thing is, we're in clown world, so trolls abound, but this is a positive troll. People, instead of actually fuel was being taken to the protesters, but the call went out to the humanities army to walk around with an empty jerry can, and then you see footage of like 400 people all just walking around with these red little, but they're empty. But it's like, yeah, okay. See, the revolution will not be televised, and the war will not be won through combat. It's memes and taking the piss.
Yeah. Speaking of taking the
So
piss, what exactly will they do? I'll let you speak. Just one thing, because Britain had a knife ban, Ottawa will have a jerry can ban.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be so funny. Anyway, Bruce, go on.
there's a very interesting karmic cycle here, and there's a very very blatant um, cause and effect here that anybody can see. Like it's undeniable. So the only time Canada has ever used the War Measures Act, and we have a War Measures Act in Canada. Most countries have them, and it's where all civil liberty is suspended for an indefinite period of time, and you live under military law, and habeas corpus is waived, and they do mass arrests and they do aggressive interrogations. So it generally happens where I live now, not Costa Rica, but Central America. But it actually happened in Canada. Happened in the fall of 1971, and it was a huge news story right into 1972. Justin Trudeau is 50 years old, and so Fidel impregnated his mother while he was in the womb while all of this was going on. The only other time in Canadian history where civil order was almost completely forfeited. Right now, it's a debatable fact and a lovely debating point in the history departments of Canadian universities, whether or not it was justified for him to use the War Measures Act in 1971-72. But he did. Now I remember this. I was 6 years old. I'm in the back of the car. I'm asking my mom and dad, what are all these men in the green uniforms with the guns doing? Right? They had like the Vietnam era helmets and everything. It's the only time I've seen a military deployment in my life. Okay, well, that's
Yeah,
not
and
true.
it was at home.
Yeah, it was one other time, and that was 9/11, and I was working in Buffalo and crossing the border Monday mornings and coming back into Canada Friday evenings. And I had a room I slept in by my office, and then I came home on weekends. And they had the National Guard at the border for about 3 weeks after 9/11. But those are the only two military deployments I've ever seen in my life. Now, here we are 50 years later. Justin Trudeau is 50 years old. Okay. And He's about to lose order in the country, one of the most civilized and polite countries in the world. And it's got to be the most, I don't know what word, grooviest protest you've ever seen in your life.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
they cannot be provoked. And
No.
I think they're going to go all the way. They're going to walk right off the plank. They're going to turn the other cheek. And it's going to be this massive explosion of the human heart. They're going to allow themselves to be clubbed in the head. They're not going to fight back. They're going to show everyone in the world what we're really up against.
Yeah,
and
but you do know that Bruce, the protesters have weapons-grade jumping castles. That is a threat to society.
Yes.
Like, have you seen that? They're actually, like, I don't know if anyone, the listeners who haven't seen it.
Was I muffling that money line for longer than 15 seconds? When did that pop into your head?
It just popped in there. But for those who haven't seen the footage, they actually have put up jumping castles for the kids.
Monty, there's a standing rule here. If it's a money line, you can interrupt me at any point. Timing's everything with comedy.
Yes, I know. I'm familiar with that. That's why I'm at the level of success that I have. A small vocal minority with unacceptable views they've gone to state of emergency in less than a week. So yeah, Clanwell.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting time for Canadians as well, right? So, and it for anybody, especially my generation, because that was like a defining moment for me in Canada, right? And again, this is the Prime Minister who deliberately allowed as a kind of willing cuckold. And I guess the highest state of cuckoldry is where you allow another man to impregnate your wife. Okay,
I love these terms.
Yeah, pleasuring your wife is one thing. Siring a child with your wife, that's a whole other thing.
That's high level elite cockhold. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Pierre Trudeau, and he was gay, by the way. He preferred men, or he was bisexual. He was all over the place. And
that doesn't surprise me at all with what's happened in Canada in the last 50 years. It's like, it's the once in a century pandemic. It's the twice in a century martial law for Canadians. So it's not really a tradition that we should uphold. Maybe.
Well, the way they're passing ridiculous bylaws, like you can't have a jerry can in the city of Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a municipal bylaw. Now, if you're following Justin Trudeau's Twitter account, he's constantly broadcasting that all resources have been made available to the city of Ottawa. The federal government is just waiting to be asked for help. Now, the military has already publicly spoken, the Department of Defense, and they've said, this isn't our problem. We're not dealing with it. If you call on us, we're not answering this call. We've already had this debate out in the open, publicly in the newspapers in Canada. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have a special kind of goon squad that he could call in. All it would take is like 500 or 1,000, psychotic RCMP goons or something like that, right?
That's Royal Canadian Mounted Police. No, I saw that acronym. I'm like, what the? Oh, that's right. It took me a while. I had to use my brain, Bruce. It hurt. Like, I always picture them on mooses in there.
So for people, I'm in constant communication with people I know in Ottawa. It's my hometown, and you may not get the whole picture on YouTube or on the mainstream news, but let me tell you, it is tense. There are snipers on every roof in downtown Toronto, downtown Ottawa. Every roof.
They're
snipers.
waiting. They're waiting for a chance, and that's the interesting thing. Like I've made the connection that, the honking. Yeah, I mean, after 3 days of honking, anyone would go insane. So I understand that there are people going, just stop, and it's like, well, and the mandates, and they're like, get vaxxed. The irony is, 80% of the truckers are vaxxed, so it's like that doesn't really work. But I've seen footage of they arrested an 80-year-old man because he honked, and we're just following orders. And if you know your history, that's not a good excuse. But they nearly beat the crap out of him because that's what you want to see is Ottawa's finest taking down Grandpa because, he's a threat.
Well, this is what I'm saying. There are going to be a lot of ugly scenes in the next week or so. It's going to get ugly, man. Okay.
Yeah, and now, it won't be from the people.
No, but you're going to see some very gut-wrenching things, and you're going to see human beings who you know to be by their behavior and their cause, who you know to be good and true people, and we're going to have to watch them suffer. And it's not going to be pleasant.
No.
But
they'll play dirty, try and agent provocateurs, hints of false flags. I mean, someone brought a Confederate flag to Ottawa, and I'm like, you kind of missed the point that you're way too north.
Yeah.
It was only one, and of course they're lashing onto that.
Yeah. And so that's the situation. And as around this situation, I think four of the 10 premiers in Ontario, and Monty and I, we come from a Commonwealth system. We have premiers of provinces, not governors of states, but it's the same thing essentially. 4 of the 10 premiers have already lifted all COVID sanctions and have vowed there will be no vaccine passport. So, but the federal government in Canada, the way our system works, the federal government can come in and trump that, right? And what they do to twist the arm of the provinces is they cut off funding. So everything is controlled by money now. It's just like you only have so much flexibility. This is another interesting thing about what's going on in downtown Toronto, is we are witness to the cutting edge in crowd management in the 21st century. In the next week or so, you're going to see some truly astounding things. There will probably be sonic weapons used. There will be first thing they're going to do is a blackout. They're going to shut down all cell service. They don't want any of this recorded. Now that should scare the hell out of you. Okay?
Well,
Our entire justice system is based on recording. That's why there's a stenographer in the court. The protest is a legal process. It's the commencement of a legal right. They want to document it. Everybody can self-document now. I suppose you can still film offline. Like, it's not like they can shut down your phone from working, but none of it will be live streamed. None of that stuff. Right?
No, and they had a practice run too. When was the G20? Was it in Toronto in 2008? 2010, yeah. There's a great documentary by Dan Dix, who's he's the Vinnie Eastwood of Canada. Because Alex Jones is awesome, but you can't just keep saying Alex Jones. He's the Alex Jones of, because Vinnie Eastwood, he gets told, oh, you're the Alex Jones of New Zealand. It's like, no, Alex Jones is the Vinnie Eastwood of America. But yeah, if you watch that, it is quite disturbing because it was all being recorded, and it's a fantastic documentary. But it's all the can you just explain very quickly what was going on there?
Well, it was a G20 protest, and it was an anti-globalization protest. Remember when we were all on the same page? Like the left made sense? I mean, it's not that long ago, folks. It's only 12 years, right? Why does 12 years seem like a whole generation ago now, Monty? Right? Do you remember Occupy Wall Street? Do you remember? I mean, from 2001 onwards, we've had some kind of mind bomb go off. And by mind bomb, I mean something that consumes us intellectually and emotionally for sustained months, or in the case of some really imbalanced people, years and decades. I mean, in our world, alternative radio, I mean, there's people who have made careers on the JFK assassination, and they're still going in 2022. But I mean, we've really been blown up with information, and it's really a series of short, sharp blows that have incapacitated us from being able to focus on what's going on around us. Most people walking around now are completely punch drunk, like completely stunned.
I'll give you an example. It's not the same, but you'll understand what the example is. Remember when that warehouse in Lebanon exploded? Whenever that was, because time's all warped. The pandemic hasn't helped with lockdowns, but there was
ammonium nitrate.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but you saw the footage of the people of Lebanon and Beirut, and it's like you could just see on a soul level of like enough. We want to it's again, and a lot of people like say when 9/11 happened, a lot of people were in shock. But because that happens there every 4 or 5 years, you could just see them being ground down. And that's kind of where we're kind of at. I remember, actually, I'll bring in our New South Wales correspondent because he's up the coast, which is not a euphemism. Cortek, are you there?
Yes.
Yes. It's like you unmuted and then you muted again. It was like, yep, you were. Do you remember? It was in 2000. It was held in Melbourne. I think it was a G20 in Melbourne actually, but it was called S11. Do you remember that?
Was that the one when they flew in one of those giant planes and caused accidents on the freeway from the dust that they kicked up? Because the rotors are about 25 foot each.
Probably, but it was
the VTOL ones. Yeah,
maybe. It was the Economic Forum in Melbourne, but it was 12 months before 9/11. And so it happened on September 11th. So that's why it's called S11. And there was protesting and I walked around it once and it's like, well, this is just a festival with better music. And then, of course, 12 months later, it's like, oh, yeah, can't really mention S11 again because now it's 9/11 and we saw what happened there. And yeah, in the last, dare I say, like as a time marker, the end of the Mayan calendar. Now, the only way we can do that is through hindsight. Like on the day, it's like, oh, it's just your average day. But that day, the energy kind of shifted. And here we are, 9 years. Yeah, because it's at the end of this year is 10. And it's kind of odd. Like just everything that's going on. I think Andrew puts it as information overload. I think that's what you're getting at, Bruce. There's just way too much information. I handle it by saying I'm tired of living through an historical event. And actually, there was a great joke. God comes over to Gabrielle and says, "So, did you do all that timeline stuff I asked for you?" Yep. I put all these events into 2020. No, I said the 2020s. Oh, I put it all in 1 year. Sorry.
It is information overload. At the same time, it's been an entire decade accelerated. So, like you just said, put everything in 2020. So, normally in like a decade, you'll have X amount of happening, but since internet kicked in 2008 and all the normies went into the internet became pretty much our relative sense of time. And on the internet, 3 months worth of happening is essentially 3 years worth of happening outside. So what otherwise would take us 3 years to digest, on the internet we're digesting like in 3 months. So we have a bunch of people who are internet savvy, the youngsters, those who moved in onto the internet and paid attention to it, and those who didn't. Fast forward 2012. Internet and real life gets completely mixed. Now, happening on the internet is happening in real life, and happening in real life is happening on the internet. And everything gets extremely accelerated so fast that 14 years ago, when liberals were still sane, now suddenly the liberals are completely insane. So yeah, what's happened? Well, we can call it a sort of timeline acceleration, a sort of massive amount of happening compressed into mere 10 years. Because for me, it's been like that. And I've been paying attention to everything since 2008. It's the only reason I managed to, find guys like Andrew. Else, I'll still be in some weird forum somewhere, listening to right-wing nationalists arguing their garbage.
Well, the thing is with that is the goalposts have moved, where I'm sure all of us in 1999, I think Bruce alluded to this earlier, we would class ourselves as left, like the left, because, we're nice and let's progress forward and let's move and work together. But then over the last decade, the goalposts have gotten in a taxi and just driven to Beijing, basically. And so they keep moving the goalposts where anyone right of Stalin is just, or something like that. I'm watching Oliver Stone's The Untold History of the United States, watch those episodes. There's only 8 episodes. Don't watch them in a row because it's like depressing. The latest episode I watched was Nixon and Reagan. So it's like the early 70s to the late 80s. And he uses right wing way too much. And I'm like, but he's old and he grew up in that time. And so back then, the right wing were kind of nutty, a bit odd. But that's what's happened in the last 20 years is like every 50 years, Republicans and Democrats, they swap being the villain. And I don't think the Democrats got the Republicans didn't get the memo, but the Democrats are running with it because really, Cortek, have you heard that the Biden administration is going to give out crack pipes?
Well, no, reason. I have not heard this. Is that true?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Is that what's their community strengthening story behind it?
I think to stop racism or some crap. I don't know.
Racial equality, but it's just one step above vaccine programs, clean vaccine programs.
So the real reason, Cortek, is so that nobody can accuse Hunter of entitlement.
Yeah. So we're all becoming equal to Hunter now. So get your cheese ready.
Get your free laptops.
Yeah. And remember when you hand them in to get fixed. That's key. So that's the level of like it's very like as you said. Is that true? It's very, parody and satire are slowly dying because it's turning into a form of reality.
It's so hard to see what is a joke at face value these days.
Well, it's Titiana McGrath on Twitter, a made-up person by a gay man. And, of course, he gets challenged that he's homophobic. Like, well, I'll tell my boyfriend that. But she, like, if you don't know, you have to be told it's parody because it comes across so truthful and integrity. And it's a comedian, and he's taking the piss. But, you know, I don't know how many times I've written like, this is a parody account. And once people realize that, they instead of going the whole hatred of, are you insane? What's wrong with you? This is a parody account. That's brilliant. That is gold because it's so out there. And she's actually predicted the future. Like even Babylon B, they come up with a joke. And then 3 to 6 months later, it's getting down to 3 weeks. It comes true. Like they jokingly said that Kamala Harris will be employing Hillary Clinton to boost her approval ratings. Guess what came out 3 weeks later? Yeah, well, guess what happened in 3 weeks later? Kamala Harris, she actually did that. And I'm like, okay, the prime creator's writing the best jokes now. Like, it's very hard as a comedian to tell you the truth because reality's taking my job.
Was there any truth to, you know, a lot of people who are in these positions of wealth and money to be able to manipulate kind of public situations like that? Is there any truth to the fact, because it seems like they can't come up with any original ideas and it seems like they just have to take other people's ideas, whether they come out in a jokey way or not. All of them seem to have their origins somewhere else than the people who were perpetrating it, you know, whether it's story, whether it's chat shows like this, whether it's, you know, the book that came out about the Titanic sinking before the Titanic sunk 10 years, you know.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've condensed it down in a simple version. A simple answer to your question is angels create, demons manipulate, because demons can't create. And that explains Hollywood for the last 6 years. Because reboots and everything else.
I got a beach version. When you're down the beach, it seems like 50% of people want to make sandcastles, 50% of people want to break sandcastles.
Yeah. Angels and demons, man. That's a nice sandcastle. It'd be a shame if I stepped on it.
Maker or breaker.
So yeah, it used to be you could play cowboys and Indians, but apparently that's racially offensive now. Steve Hughes came up with like, well, I don't remember playing cops and Aboriginals in Australia.
Yeah, you got to call them ranchers.
Yeah, native, traditional owners and colonizers. I think that's the words now. So
the thing is. Earlier, you said we used to be liberals before. Well, before we had an understanding of classical liberalism, and the liberalism that we've seen in the last 12 years has been more Marxist liberalism. So when you have characters like Titiana McGrath, like Andrew Doyle, and Douglas Murray and Babylon Bee, these guys are very learned in Marxist liberalism. They understand the formula that is Marxism. And the moment you understand the formula that is Marxism and you take any topic, say gender, and you run the Marxist formula, what comes out of it is pure high quality satire. That's exactly what they've been doing.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of natural satire. Amazon, for $10 US, you can buy the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah.
As well as apparently to go to the Karl Marx Museum, you have to pay to get in.
Yeah. Communists. Well, even Karl was like that because Karl never worked an hour in his life and used to borrow money from what's his name? I forgot his name.
Who knows?
Do you
know the greatest thing that Karl Marx
the other
did?
guy.
Do you know what the greatest thing that Karl Marx did for humanity? He died.
This is sounding like a punchline.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, what's his greatest achievement?
Well,
he died.
even though he died, he was the progenitor for a mental virus that lasted 200 years and infected so many people. Like Yuri Bezmenov put it, once you're infected with the mental virus, it's impossible to, it's irreversible.
Well, also, there's the lack of information. Yeah, to add to that, there's the lack of information because we're told, it's capitalism. But if you know about the Federal Reserve Bank, which is a privately owned company, we don't have true free market capitalism because it's crony capitalism, almost oligarchy. Because if it was pure free market, everyone could play in the sandbox. But the system and the operation that we have now is someone owns the sandbox.
You see, you just said it right there. You are looking at the economic aspect of Marxism, right? Because you apply Marxism on the economy, you got capitalism, you got communism. What if you apply Marxism in everything? What happens?
Well, I remember the movie Enemy at the Gates.
You get social justice. Yeah.
And it's a great movie about World War II, and Jude Law's in it, and I can't remember the main guy. Anyway,
Behind Enemy Gates.
Yeah, and Rachel Weisz is in it. Now, there's three.
That was a lovely scene in it.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. He sacrifices himself. But that little speech before he sacrifices. Spoiler alert! I have to put that in now because someone got cranky on YouTube. Oh, thanks for ruining it. It's like The Matrix came out 3 weeks ago. It's the internet, and also Roadshow, Village Roadshow, who helped produce The Matrix, is suing Warner Brothers, but that's a different conversation. We'll get to that later. The little speech that Jude Law, I think it is Jude Law, because he's in a love triangle, and he points out, the benefits of communism, but there's one problem, and they don't take into account love, because he realizes that the girl that he loves and the other sniper, the girl picks the other guy, the sniper, and so that's why he steps out into the light and gets taken out. And because he was killed by the German sniper, the Soviet sniper knows exactly where he is. So it's a quirky way of just pointing out of I don't think
because he was killed by the German sniper. Jude Law knows where he is.
No, well, yeah, definitely, because Jude Law got shot in the head.
No. The other guy got shot in the head.
Was that Ray Fiennes? Anyway,
the other guy removed his helmet.
Yes.
Are we going through Mandela effect here?
There's a sniper and not sniper. The not sniper is in love with a girl, and the sniper gets the girl, and so that's why the not sniper
is Jude Law.
All right, no, you're going backwards now. I'm just making it easier. You're getting lost in names. I'm just going with a character. Not sniper sacrifices himself
for sniper and girl.
Do I have to get my whiteboard out? I've got plasticine. I can make characters. I can put on a great show. I can do voices.
Mandela effect, everyone. Mandela effect behind Enemy Gates.
I know what I know.
It's a different version you watch. It's okay.
Yeah, well, we're all unique individuals, and you're proving that.
No.
Oh no, we're all the same.
No. We're all from different timelines, and we just merge timelines, and we're exchanging data.
Yeah, you're the center of your universe. I'm the center of my universe, and through the joy of creation, we interact so we can share our experiences. And it's so funny when you're like, "Oh, it's a Mandela effect." No, it's not. You don't understand the whole thing about timelines, do you? Like people getting in arguments over Bernstein Bears is spelled one way or the other. It's like, really? This just proves that you're in different timelines. And also, if there's evidence of both timelines, it's clearly a CIA psyop.
Right.
Well, how can Monty?
Yeah.
Did I tell you about my tweet to Sarah Silverman?
Yes, you did.
Yes, it was a bit religious. I think.
You seem
what was the response? What was the response that you got from that tweet? Actually, Cortek didn't hear that, so just
he didn't tell me. Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Well, I was on Twitter and there was a tweet from Sarah Silverman in my feed, and it said, "Everyone is so sad." Period. There's just one big sentence. And I replied, "Have you asked Jesus for help?" ?
Who is Sarah Silverman?
Jewish comedian who's done. Well, no. Now, Raz, Cortek is in heaven, because if he doesn't know who Sarah Silverman is,
how come he gets in heaven?
Well, he doesn't know who Sarah Silverman is. I mean, well, you know who Sarah is. Would you rather not know? That's what I'm getting at here.
Is she some politician or something? Or?
No, comedian.
Those icons vet us based on the personalities we know? That's horrible, man. I know too many personalities. Anyway, I'll never get in heaven.
Sarah, I think she went out with Jimmy Kimmel, and she's also done blackface, and she's done a sketch with Patton Oswalt about pedophilia. She's a far left icon. So, yeah. And she's Jewish.
I get it. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Sarah Silverman is a very unfunny person, like Amy Schumer. Very unfunny people who tried comedy, proving that the left cannot do comedy.
Does she swear a lot and talk about vaginas?
Yes, she does. She does some,
mostly about racial stuff. Amy is more of a vajayjay expert. Yeah. She's more of a, racial equality and Trump and oh my God, Trump.
Yeah, Orange Man bad. But what they're going for is instead of laughter, they go for clapter, where when you say a joke, you get a clap because you're making a great point instead of actually making someone laugh.
Yeah, I want the full box of dice.
Well, yeah, comedy. Well, I mean, just look at Nanette by what's her name? I wisely wiped my name from Hannah Gatsby.
Oh God.
Yeah, I watched 32 minutes of her special and turned it off. I turned it off before she did her 15-minute wasn't a rant, but was more of a therapy session at the end, and that's why it's so great and everything else like that. But the last 15 minutes, there's no comedy at all. There's hardly any jokes. She's spilling her guts of her life experience, and well, cool. Maybe not a room with 5,000 people. You could try a therapist.
All the time. They do that all the time.
Yes. But it's now popular.
No, go on.
It's popular now, and she was. I think it's got 95 or 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, which doesn't mean much, but anyway.
You know how Andrew talks about that energetic vomit when you're entangling with someone? When you watch their comedy show, you understand that really, really well. It's like, holy shit! Oh no, cut it.
Visual.
Whoa, that was a nice visual, Monty. Someone just chatted. No, someone just wrote be right back. Monty just did. I don't know. Maybe his cat pulled a ninja move and tried to commit suicide, or someone jumped in.
I'll tell you what. That's the most spoiled cat in the world. I have 5 cats, and I spend 1/10 the amount of time on my cats that Monty spends on his cats.
I have 3 cats, and I just got myself 4 kitties. My mother just gave some of them, and I tell you something. We let these cats do whatever the hell they want because they're African wildcats. They have to hunt on their own. They have to survive on their own. The moment you start to feed them, they stop hunting. I don't have one house lizard. I don't have one cockroach because it's very hot in here. We have a lot of cockroach. So yeah, you have to let them train their hunter skill. If you pamper them too much, they're gonna keep asking.
Yeah. So there's me and one of my cats in my new icon photo there on Skype.
Yeah. We can see that.
That's the 2 of us waking up from an afternoon nap 3 days ago, and very quickly grabbed my iPhone 13 mini and snapped off that photo.
Yeah.
You're slowly
just phone
transforming
will do,
into a
thank you.
white
Just phone. We don't need the whole friggin'. What's the serial number?
Monty,
He's totally going John's laws.
I've never been so proud to be a customer in my life, Monty.
You're transforming into a white girl. That's easy.
I'm
Just
gonna-
a matter of time
Monty,
before we see Bruce with filters and with
I don't-
little
Monty, I
cat
don't-
ears. Oh my
I've
God.
completely expelled those Foxconn suicides from my mind, Monty. This is a superior phone.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, when people say, "Oh, but Apple, they're made by 8-year-olds and they're slaves and they may commit suicide." Well, imagine if they stopped that. How awesome it would be.
Have you seen what those little scampers can do with their nimble fingers?
Yeah,
They're pretty amazing.
I actually go to an Asian dentist. No, well, they've got smaller hands, and it's not being racist. Like, they're very good at their work, and they have small hands, so they can get into my mouth.
Yeah.
See, unfortunately, I'm not that popular, so that won't be clipped, and I won't be cancelled. But give it hello to 10 years from now when I am popular.
You've got to take this episode down.
Yeah. I'll have to be removed from. I'm on Spotify. No one. I actually am. See, the difference between me and Joe Rogan is I wasn't paid to go onto Spotify.
So did you hear that Rumble offered him like 100 mil?
Yep, over 4 years. Yeah.
What's this? Is any progress on that? It's got to make Spotify a little bit sweaty, doesn't it?
Well, they heard nothing about it, so it's the wait and see. But I think Joe actually agreed to removing 70 because he did that apology thing. And if we want to get into that, I don't think, no one can use the word. It's not saying the N word, and except for African Americans. It's just the African Americans. It's not the Africans. Just the African Americans. That's right. The thing that is around the whole word, just the word itself, it's racist. And if only one group can use it, that's racism.
The problem Joe Rogan has is somebody in an airport hangar. Like, what's going on there?
Sorry, that was me. I was just stepped into an airport hangar. I'm back outside again.
Okay. So the problem Joe Rogan has is the poor bastard has about the last 15 years of his life archived on YouTube and Google videos. Okay, so you could spend a Sunday afternoon, just using the date filter, and there's this one video that cropped up from way back in the day. This must be 15 years old, and he's doing some kind of roundtable podcast with that lunatic Joey Diaz, and. Oh my God, you got to see it, but 15, it's not anything men haven't said out loud when they're in somebody's basement having beers, right? It's just like Joey Diaz ran a comedy club in LA, and he's talking about getting blowjobs from the female comics, and you got to see him. You guys know who Joey Diaz is?
Yeah, not my cup of tea, but I know what I can see why people do like him. And yeah, lunatic is a good way, and it's a loving term. But and also, if you know, that their main haunt is the Comedy Store, and so if you actually see any act at the Comedy Store, they're very abrupt and they push the boundaries and they're skirting the line of a bit too far. Like they're very offensive. They don't cross the line, but they go up to the line and hug it. And so when you watch that stuff from 15 years ago, that no one was watching it, and it's just 6 comics from the Comedy Store just talking shite, and that's why it comes out that way. It's like that's the comedy they do on stage, and that's also like it's nightclub thing. It's like, why would you take an 8-year-old to a stand-up comedy thing? It's the last adult world.
Yeah. And there's no realistic pushback on any of this nonsense coming from radical third-generation feminists, right? I mean, third-wave feminists. I mean, literally, if that was put to me, and I believe I saw it on Twitter, and it was a female poster, and she was like, "This is the scumbag that people are defending." And I mean, it is a really racy clip, and Joey Diaz is the very definition of a Brooklyn scumbag. Right.
I was about to say, does he kind of sound like I'm walking here kind of a guy?
He's like He's very similar. I often get him confused with the character who played Big Pussy on The Sopranos. Okay? Yeah, so that's
He's like
the kind of guy.
he's like
Hey, bada
Andrew Dice.
boom. This girl, she wants to be a headliner. I said, baby, this is how you get there. You know what I mean?
Give me the head, and then afterwards we'll do a line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joey Darius is like Andrew Dice's Clay is dad in character.
That's the character I was thinking of.
Yeah, if that makes sense. You got Andrew Dice Clay is like, well, Joey Diaz is his dad.
So what I'm saying to all the young men out there is, don't be afraid to push back on this nonsense. Just politely clear your throat and say, if any woman ever pulls anything like that on you, just clear your throat and say, so just to be clear, you're telling us you've never filleted somebody for personal advantage?
Yeah, actually, I have to find the meme again. About in the last 2 years, I found a meme that everyone would love, and it's like, with everything that's going on, can we all agree we like having our genitals licked?
And
I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, all of your sexual encounters from 18 years old onward have all been about pure love. Nothing has been about social advantage or positioning or how you look or your vanity. So basically, you're a Carmelite who gets laid once a year. Is that what you're telling us?
No, they're worse. They're like a Vulcan. They only have sex every 7 years, because if they don't, they get really violent. I'm on my Ponfar as well, and gee, it's great. No, everyone should do it. It's fantastic.
So I think what we call the political correct brigade is about to break, and when it breaks, we're going to all have to get to know each other again in a very, very personal way as human beings living in multicultural societies, right?
And the thing is, it's not, you don't go to Thanksgiving where, you get to sit down at the kids table and start going, so who's shot up heroin before? Let me show you. All right, pass me that rubber tubing. There is a time and place. That's the thing. And also, like, you go to a comedy club, which is a form of a nightclub. Even like you listen to Lenny Bruce's stuff in the late 50s, early 60s. He was arrested. Can you imagine Joey Diaz doing 3 minutes in 1958? He would be thrown in a hole and never heard from again.
Yeah, Lenny Bruce took it on the chin. I mean, they got him for public indecency, and the poor bastard had a rough go of it, man. He was a heroin addict too, so.
Yeah, well, the closing years of his life, the court case just took over everything, and he couldn't let go. But he was a comic genius. He was a pioneer, but it's kind of tame now, where like Eddie Murphy with Delirious, which is 1983. There's a reason why, I guess we're all roughly the same age, except Cortek. He won't tell me how old he is, so I'm saying he's 114. Because numbers, man. But that home video is, every house should have a Bible and a copy of Delirious type thing. Like, they used to, Gideon's Bible. There should be a Delirious copy right next to it.
Yeah.
But even then,
it was shortly after that Eddie Murphy remembered he was black.
Mm-hmm. But he was doing stadiums. Like, I mean, I haven't really deep dived into Steve Martin's work, but he was selling out. Which is bigger, arenas or stadiums? Stadium's bigger than arena, isn't it?
Well, no. Some hockey arenas can be really big. They're basically the same thing.
Yeah. Arenas are like, say, 20,000, and stadiums are up to 60,000. He was playing in the late 70s, just a one-man show, him and his banjo on stage in front of 50,000 people, and Steve Martin. Yeah. And he got tired of it because he wasn't connecting with the audience because it was too big, as well as, like, he would say a joke and you could hear the laughter just as a ripple of wave go across the whole room. I could even bring in Roger Waters and The Wall, how he, on the Animals tour in 77, he got so angry with an audience member, he spat at him. And later on, Roger's like, well, hang on, how did I get here? And that's how we conceived The Wall, where the first half of the show is they building a wall on stage, and at the end of at intermission, there's a 20 feet high wall covering the entire stage, and you can't see the band.
Yeah,
what a stage show!
And it worked. That's the other thing. Like, people love that. He's been touring that for the last 5 years, and but he tapped into the alienation and if you're feeling a bit down and in the dumps and you're in the right frame of mind, just watch The Wall and you go, I connect to this. Now, the only thing with The Wall is there's no humor. Unless you listen to the commentary by Roger and Gerald Scarf, who did the animation. There's jokes all the way through it, but I just have to go let my cat out because her perfect timing. Oh, actually, I'll wait a minute because we're coming up to half time where we change sides, go into the rooms and see. Yeah.
We like to talk about your cat behind your back when you're not on air.
All hail Lady Scoffchops, Lady Scoffington, as I like to call her.
You named her?
Yeah, I didn't name her.
That's the funniest cat name too.
I didn't name her Scoff Chops. I have 17 different versions of Scoff Chops. Perfect time. You're listening to Revolution Radio, Studio A. This is Planet Collingwood. Me and the chaps are having a bit of a chin wag and a bit of a giggle, and we'll be back after these messages to continue doing that. We'll see you soon. Planet Collingwood, here we are. This is Revolution Radio, Studio A. My name is Monty Dean. Planet Collingwood's the name. Planet Collingwood's the game. That doesn't make sense. If you enjoyed the last hour, please go to freedomslips.com and or revolution.radio and donate what you can. Just click on the Patreon button there. $5 here, $7,000 there. Whatever you can share which is reasonable. Whatever is possible. Don't sell your house for the station. That's a bit of a commitment there because we're 100% listener supported. So thank you for everyone that is helping, and for the people that donate to me as well. Thank you, and much appreciated. I'm still alive and mostly sane for it, so thank you. And if you want to send me money, just go to my YouTube page, which is Wafer Thin Entertainment, and there's a PayPal button on there. And if you feel like giving me a couple of shekels, I can buy food. There, that's what I'll do. I'll buy food. Or pay bills, and I don't know. I can't go out because I don't have a vaccine passport because I live in the fascist state of Victoria. I have been joined by Bruce MacDonald, Raz, and Cortek. Gentlemen, where shall we go from here? Well, actually, that could be the question. Like, in Clown World, where do we go from here? Do we wait for the guy that the man out of a cannon, or?
So far, we've covered your cat, Ottawa, Joe Rogan, a few guys here and there. So what do we go to?
Well, actually, I'd like to thank you for pointing out that my cat is number one. That is clearly correct.
Well, of course.
Say it out loud.
Emperor Scotty something. Empress.
Scotty chops.
Scoff chops. It's wordplay for off chops. Yeah, you can scoff at something, chops. Yeah, and then you have off chops, which is very off your face, off your trolley, shit faced. You get high on ketamine. So yeah, it's wordplay, and like, thank you for that. And every time someone hears it, they laugh at the name, but we move on.
So I have 5 cats, and 2 of them are brothers, and they're both black. And they are the children of one of my female cats, and we just weren't able to give them away, and they sort of got big, and they're with us now. But generally, we can give away the whole litters, and I mean, I'm seeing cats all the time up here, like 3 litters a year, 3 cats, so 9 litters a year, right? Or 2, let's say 6 litters a year. And there's always somebody who wants a cat up here, but I don't name them Monty, but we have to have identifiers, so we call them by color. So there's orange, white, black, little black, and kink. And kink is another one of the black kittens that has a kink in his tail. So kink is the only one who's been incidentally named outside of the color scheme.
Yeah, slight ironic that a creative person as a writer.
It's the exact same for me in here. I had 9 cats at one point. They were named after their color. They were like blonde, noir, and usually after their personality trait. So we have this one cat who just like to lie everywhere, everywhere. How can I put this? In the middle of a room, get stepped on. So we named him Parking Lot, and that was That was funny. And we have Felon, who is an absolute troublemaker. So he's Felon, more French way of saying felon, felony, felon, yeah. So yeah, we do name them after colors. I see that a lot of places. People who have many cats, they start naming them after colors.
Yeah, just laziness. You can't be creative people. We called our cats by color. Really?
But look, I have brilliant moments of interaction with these animals. Like the avatar for Skype now is me and one of the kittens. That's actually Kink right there, and we're waking up from a nap, and that's him yawning.
Yeah, I did want to respond to that. It's like I see the cat choirs coming along quite nicely.
Yeah.
Just the cat like ah.
It's amazing where people's minds go though, right? Because I got a few concerned inquiries about whether I was torturing that cat or something.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Like, there's a band from Japan who are pop metal. They have pop music and metal music. And they're three teenage girls, and it's fascinating, because if you like the music, they're really good at it. But it's interesting when you show it to people. It's like, oh, you're a pedophile, really? So the first thing you see when you look at a teenager wearing a skirt is sex. That's kind of telling, isn't it? It is fascinating people's responses. Like, what thought did you just have? And you have to justify it.
Yeah. So, no, obviously my dog has a name, and him and me, we're as thick as thieves. I mean, we've been 24/7 for 5 years now, 6 years, and so yeah, it's a nice relationship with the animals. So what I was thinking we could talk about is, let's try to map out 2022 a little bit, and I'm not talking about bringing out astrology charts or any nonsense like that. I'm just talking about trying to economically and socially map out the consequences of the suppressed economy in the private sector for the last 2 years. We all know civil servants are going to be fine, right? But what about the rest of us who don't work for the government,
Which I do find fascinating with Trudeau, because he was in Parliament and saying there are these people who are trying to attack the economy and hurt businesses and everything else like that. And someone's gone, you've been doing that for 2 years.
They're called the government.
Yeah, are you upset that it's not you anymore? But I can't remember the name, but someone on the opposition stood up and said, the rest of the world's stopping this stuff. Why can't we do it? Even to have an end point to this. And then apparently, you couldn't see the member of parliament giggling. I think it was the prime minister, but apparently someone on the other side was just laughing at the notion of getting out of or something. And it's kind of telling where. Well, to answer your question, I have no idea how to map this stuff out unless we go from elections. Here in Australia, we have an election possibly in the next month. The state of Victoria has an election in November. In the United States, they have the midterms in November. And Canada, you had an federal election last year, didn't you?
I can't remember if it was 2020 or 2021.
Yeah, that's still recent.
It might have been 2020. He called it a year and a half early. He took advantage of a few social situations. It was like just pure skullduggery, as all politics is these days, right? It's just pure skullduggery.
And
it's nothing. It's nothing to do with governance. It's all about popularity and corruption
profit.
And everything else. Yeah, profit and how much money does Nancy Pelosi have? She gets paid $150,000 a year, but she's got $90 million. How did she do that? Oh, lucky.
Far too much to be someone who's doing things for other people.
There was another tweet. I'm loving Twitter, by the way. There was another tweet I saw a few weeks ago. It was a pro football player, and he said, "Now let me get this straight. If I were to bet for or against my team in a game, I would be charged by the Gaming Commission, fined by the NFL, and maybe kicked out of the sport forever."
Yeah.
Which I believe is completely correct. This is the football player speaking. But if you're a member of Congress You pass legislation influencing business, and there's no prohibition on insider trading, right? It's just like everybody gets it now. You know, this, you know, and I don't know. Maybe it wasn't really that hard to see. You just had to hit a certain level of maybe hardship or personal difficulty in your life to start looking. Like, you don't generally look for problems in life when everything is going your way, right?
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends like that in Ottawa, and I've just been in these royal battles on Facebook because they're like, you know, we got to get these hooligans out of here and this protest. And I said, no, you know, but I mean, that has got to be one of the most unbelievably brainwashed places in the world, Ottawa, Canada. It's a civil service town, right? Government puts the feed bowl out every day.
Yeah, I've had family members have actions with the medical system, and they woke up like that's it. You are right where something like that false narrative that the TV puts forward, everything's fine, everything's working, and then you go and do something and you've lost your kids because you said castle instead of castle, and there's an element of trauma, and people wake up like, hang on, the system's not working, or it's doesn't work for me.
Yeah, it's literally the worst thing you could do. Everything they're doing now is literally the worst stuff you could be doing if your stated goal was to create a positive society and a livable society.
Yeah,
they're doing everything possible to make that more difficult now. And Trudeau is being thoroughly called on this, and he's got no way to weasel out of this. You just follow his Twitter thread, how insane his response is to this convoy thing.
He
right?
ran away. He refused to go and talk to them. He went and talked to the BLM people, and it's interesting how that's falling apart because they're being investigated. Where did all this $1 million go? Why have the management of the organization kept buying houses? You know, and it's like, you're not who you say you are. But Trudeau said, like, you know, protest is good. I actually came out and said blah blah blah, and I went and talked to them. But he won't talk to these guys because he doesn't believe in them.
Yeah. And I mean, we've all talked about his statements about the protesters, right? A fringe minority, and they show up, and it's like, you know, a convoy as long as the Sahara Desert. And, you know, there's literally thousands of people, tens of thousands of people in Ottawa now from all over the country, and more come in on weekends. And, you know, his response to this about racists and misogynists, and it's so off cue. It really is one of those emperor has no clothes moments, right? It would have been like if Bernie Madoff had screamed anti-Semitism when he was going down. It's like, really, Bernie? Really? You know?
It seems to be trying to distract with the race card, but that's worn quite thin over the last couple of years. You know, it's just either that or Russians, and it's falling on deaf ears.
Well, that was actually a legitimate news story at the beginning of the convoy. They were speculating in the American and Canadian press that it was Russia-inspired and Russia might be behind it.
Of course they did.
Yeah, the Russian.
It seems to be a very, very, very short playbook that they get their ideas from.
Well, yeah, they went from
money.
Small minority to the Russians in less than a week, and now they're insurrectionists. But I mean, that's it's the failing of federally in Canada. What's the term limit? Is it 4 years?
5.
Didn't seem like there was a limit.
No, they have to have an election. States, federally here in Australia, I think it's 3, and states are 4, and so 5. But I mean, you get into the second year of a government in control, and you have to wait another 3 years to change because that's democracy. There's got to be another way of actually going, you know what? You're extremely corrupt, and we want to get rid of you.
Yeah, we've seen the first year of your action, and really we're a bit disappointed in ourselves. We're not angry at you. We're disappointed in ourselves. We let you through the door. Can we change now, please?
Now, there is a way out constitutionally. It's the Governor-General. Strangely enough, the Governor-General is appointed by the government in charge, and so usually they side with them. At some point, the government. Technically, the Governor General of Canada can fire Trudeau, correct?
No, that would never. Yeah, maybe.
Well, they do that here in Australia. It's still in the Constitution that the Governor General can fire the government. That's what happened in 1975.
That was Gough Whitlam, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, he must have really mucked up.
He tried to upset a lot. He kind of upset a lot of people with a couple of words he said. Yeah, and it was just those same ABC agencies who were getting a little bit.
The CIA actually helped with that coup. He wanted to get off. He wanted to get out of the SWIFT programming. He was talking to China. He was basically breaking away. He changed a lot of Australia, so we're Australian instead of just like a satellite colony of the UK. And they didn't like that, and so the opposition in the Lower House blocked supply, and that forced the Governor General to say, "No, you're fired." And that was on Cup Day, 1975, or around that. And because the Queen can step in and remove a government. I think it may be the same in. No, I'm not saying it will happen because it's got to obviously. Trudeau's following the global narrative, but I think the Governor General can actually suspend or remove the government because they're not doing the right thing for the people, because the Queen's the sovereign.
Yeah.
And what a sovereign. Well, can we all invade England and get rid of her then? So every single country that just thinks that she's like a useless old biddy and any connection to it is just, the Commonwealth Games, give me a break. Yeah. Is it the next election anywhere and everywhere over the world where it really gets rammed home what happened in the last US election? I think it's everyone is not going to take the picture of the baby kissing the same way. Everyone is not going to trust anything that's said, or wonder if a politician's smiling. Are you smiling because you know you're out to profit for this, or you're smiling because you're too dumb to know what's wrong? Either way, I don't like the attitude.
I'm gonna be Obi-Wan Kenobi here, and only a Sith use absolutes. 50% of the people believe it. The other 50%, like if we use the United States, the Trump won. There's that side of the populace, but on the other side, they're calling it the big lie. And so
they don't believe it at all.
Yeah, they believe that Biden won fair and square. I'm in the middle where it's like, can we check the results? No. Well, there you go. I don't know if Trump won. Trump was winning because that elections go, I think, 3 or 4 different ways as they unfold. And you could see Trump was heading towards a victory, and then they paused. And all these votes, blah, blah, blah. And
I was on that night, that whole night. And then Jacker came back about 7 a.m. or something, because we thought, stuff's got to start clicking over about 8:30 a.m., or 8 or 9. And just nothing had happened. It was the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, and I've had people, there was cheating on both sides. Yeah, well, I think the Republicans were better at it because you can't see where they did. The Democrats, where statistically they found 100,000 votes for Biden and blah, blah, blah. The thing is, it's a complete
farce.
A clusterfrack. And it's like, we should really let's go through it again and do a proper audit. And then the Democrats try to block it because apparently that's against democracy. I think it's not against democracy. It's against that you won.
From their perspective, they see it the way as we've done some election fraud. Biden got in and the people swallowed it. And just look at the U.S. Everything is going fine. Okay, so that means we can do it again. No, when I say everything is going fine, I mean Biden is still, he's still in his spot.
Like January 6, 2020,
they
call it.
Wait, 2020, 2021?
No, it was 21. Sorry, 21. It's a year ago.
Who's the pedantic man now?
Timelines, Cortek. That's been you've seen in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
What's it feel like looking in the mirror?
Great, because I can have a rest. I can send him out now.
Okay, sorry, I said that wrong. What's it feel like listening in a mirror?
Well, it's a visual medium, and that doesn't make sense. My point being is, I maintain that there was an insurrection, and it wasn't the protesters going in. The ceremony or the legal things of acknowledging all the votes. Because they said no, Biden won, blah blah blah. Because that they made it legal, but how they got there with the actual votes, that's where all the corruption is. And so technically, the Democrats had an insurrection and they won, and because it was signed, sealed, and unlegally, even if it came out that Biden cheated, nothing will happen. It's like we're at that point where there's no accountability. There's no one to enforce this type of stuff. Not the
police is police.
Yeah, the Freedom Convoy is a perfect example. It's like, why can't they stop honking? Get rid of the honking. And the honking is like, well, if they get rid of the mandates, and
stop them honking so I can go back to my mindless malaise.
Yeah, and all the stuff that's been said in Canada. Cortek, the reminder of the last 2 years, like in Victoria, we heard the same language about protesters who are against the narrative. I think even New South Wales as well. Oh, they're doing this now. Oh, they're doing this now. It's like, oh, wait. Oh, they're Nazis. They're extremists. Like
they're racist.
Yeah, because in Canada we're for freedom and rights. It's like, strangely enough, that's what they're fighting for. But you call them extremists, so it's one or the other. You're living in a delusional paradigm because you're blaming them for it's that art of war. Blame the enemy of what you're doing. Go ahead, Bruce. Sorry.
Yeah, he's so contemptible to watch too. Like when he makes a statement in the House of Commons or something, it's all like Edward Bernays speak. It's all platitudes and slogans and nonsense. In all the time this guy's been Prime Minister of Canada, I can't recall hearing him say a substantive thing once. Not once, right? Like it's really kind of alarming.
Well, you actually have to give him some props. I mean, for a drama teacher, he's doing very well.
Part-time.
Yeah, well, part-time. Yeah, but as a part-time drama teacher, like, yeah, you're doing, because he's acting his ass off. Let's be fair.
Yeah. So, I mean, when he went to visit India, the leading columnists of that country were calling him and Canadian policies depraved, right? And, and this is another thing that, when you're in the fishbowl, when you're in the Five Eyes, and you're bombarded by a culture that is telling you, this is the way to behave, this is the way to think, this is the way to be tolerant. Realize this is not a global phenomenon. It's not like the whole world woke up and say, hey, yeah, you know what? There's at least 89 genders in this race, this human race. My God, how did we miss this? Let's correct this now. And we're all uniformly addressing it, right? From the African subcontinent right down to the Antarctica and Europe and North America. And of course, my favorite, the Middle East. And it's just like, how did we miss this? And this is the trajectory of the West now. This is where the madness of radical individuality has taken us, because that's the root of the problem. With the American mythos created this, let's say Reagan's rugged individual. And, when they were doing the westward expansion, maybe that was needed, but it's just a caricature now. It's just, it has no stage to perform on anymore. There's just no more voice or reason to any of the way that America thinks anymore. And
what happens to the military juggernaut when really you can't fight war like that anymore?
Well, that's what's happening with the Freedom Convoy in Canada. They're using air horns. They're honking, because if this happened 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, they will be using muskets. They're not using
those little ones that go, ha ha.
but the point. Thank you for trying to back up my. Yeah.
The little
those little
squeezy
click
one.
clack things. The little click clack. My point being.
That's Spanish dancing.
Yeah,
That's maracas.
Yeah. No, it's click clack. See, you're doing it again. You're
No,
derailing
you
me.
were.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, my lord. They're trying not to be violent. These type of revolution, because they understand that people can be killed, and it's just an idea of like let us live a normal life. The way that the virus has unfolded, if we follow that narrative,
is it a virus or is it just an idea?
I've got an idea about you right now. My point being, well, if Omicron is highly infectious and mild, we've gone past the danger, and it's the level of flu.
Common cold, yeah.
Yeah.
Except for the unvaccinated, Monty. It's mowing them. It's mowing them down.
Yeah. Well, are they, or are they 80-year-olds that have been triple vaxxed? Because in New South Wales, it's interesting enough. They've been sharing that stuff where less than a third of fatalities are actually unvaccinated. And now, like in Victoria, Vic Health, guess what they do? They shared a graph of I think cases or hospitalizations, and a third of them, 2/3 of them were unvaccinated, but a third were vaccinated with 3 doses. Now, can you see the spin right there? Because like, if you've got 2 doses, are you labelled unvaccinated? Because that's splitting hairs.
Well, the reason you'd get one in the first place was because it worked.
Yeah.
Well, we're up to 4, possibly 4 now.
Really? Are they pushing that? Because we kind of skipped the whole kind of Sigma and Omega thing, and they went to something called BA2 or something like that. I think it was just to try and make people say "bah" on radio or something, to like a sheep joke. There you go. There it was. Happy.
Yeah, I'm going for another polio booster tomorrow, Monty. I'm starting to get a little nervous. I think maybe it wore off in like 1972.
Yeah.
What about the mumps?
Yeah.
Is that a band from the 60s?
The mumps.
Yeah.
I think so.
And up next, the mumps with inoculation.
Yeah, it's the Muppet understudy group.
Yeah, cool. I realize
Animal plays drums in it still.
Now, because my memory's terrible, but I don't think I've had an actual vaccine since 1990.
Wow.
I think it was a tetanus,
years.
the last one I had when I was wandering around the bush, and there was a big bit of rusty metal there that I cut my leg open on. But that was it.
Yeah. So I mean, I've only left the country since I've been here in Australia, and that was New Zealand. So it's like, nah, bro, you're fine.
I think you're pretty safe over there.
Oh, I mean, but has anyone been violently ill in the last 24 months?
Nope.
No.
Yeah.
But then I haven't had a vaccine, so.
Zing. Take that, farmer.
Establishment.
Now,
establishment.
has this turned up on your radar? Apparently, they're giving out HIV tests.
They've been doing that for the last 2 years.
I saw.
Well, apparently there's a big push for it now, smarty pants.
Again, one more way.
Well, actually, no. Let's be fair. You're close to a continent that's been dealing with AIDS for decades.
We are close to the continent that invented the bloody thing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that monkey looks hot. But in the West, apparently they do it, and so yeah, this is why it's that I'm in that one day at a time thing, because why invest in half of this stuff? I'm just going to watch my James Bond DVDs.
I saw a story related to that kind of thing, that maybe this whole kind of variant thing's wearing thin. They might whip out, another thing that they've manufactured and try and make new variants on that. It was something about AIDS popping up somewhere recently and that being twisted in a new way. You guys heard anything about that?
I think
yes, I have.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's a nothing burger. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because their goal is not to kill people right now. They need people. They need the economy. They need everything. They just want to sell vaccine, and they just want to maim a few here and there. That's it. They don't really care about everything else.
For the greater good.
Yeah.
For the greater good.
One of us.
Yeah, one of us.
It's they have their work cut out for them. I mean, keeping the drama level up. I mean, I think they've really backed themselves into a corner with their COVID narrative, and it's publicly. I mean, unless they have legitimate transformers in a warehouse somewhere, I'm not buying anything that comes next.
They've backed themselves into a corner by completely ruining the idea of democracy. This is where we are now, but we've had no elections in between in our country or in your country. And what they don't seem to understand is that they broke it last time. It's broken what they're doing. They may as well be transmitting and not seeing what they're transmitting because it's broken on the other end and no one's looking. Go on.
If there ever really was a plan to go underground and incite a nuclear attack on us, now would be the time they're doing it. I just throw that out there. I know it's a dark spot on the round table, but I mean, either those underground cities are for something or they're not, because there's no way out of this, and there's no way. You see, I'll give you a little insight into the philosophy of these people. If there's no accuser, there's no crime. This is their. So, given that we're all sort of getting ready to point fingers and everybody's sort of waking up, it would be a completely viable solution to this collective psychopathy we call the governing and ruling class to just kill us. And
I recently saw footage of Jesus floating in the air, and it was a hologram, and it's like my first instinct, like my soul said, no, that's fake. And people are like, is this Project Bluebeam? Are they testing it out just to see what the public do? And I think just the awareness that people have where if we see a giant deity in the sky, I'm sure 5% of the population will bow down, but the rest of them are like, yeah, whatever.
There's going to be a large proportion of whoever's watching just crack up laughing.
Yeah, because of all the lying and the corruption and the misinformation from everywhere. That's part of the overload, information overload. But it's also like Australia is multi-religion. So unless we have Don Bradman coming back, if you actually, local reference. But local if we had Jesus, you won't get all the Jewish or Islam people or the Muslims, because it's like, oh, that's that guy. You know what I mean? It's not going to work. It may work in Israel, or if you see, here's some comedy for you. In Project Bluebeam, would they actually show Muhammad?
Just not a cartoon.
Well, because that's part of the religion, is that you can't have any image of Muhammad. So
was it just a cartoon or just any image?
So no, I think it's just Muhammad or Allah or something like that. So I mean, Project Bluebeam will not work for Islam at all, because it'll be highly offensive if they did see Muhammad floating in the sky.
I swear I saw some footage and it was somewhere in Baghdad or something like that. It looked like it, and you could hear the chatter in the streets. And this was, kind of mud brick buildings and stuff like that. You could hear all the chatter around, and the sky was full with these close blue beam of planets. It was a full test run, and you could hear the people on the streets going crazy. 4 months later, they come out with a cover-up thing to say they were out in the desert with some projection screen, and that's what everyone saw. But it was,
Cortek. Yeah, the odd thing is, on the flip side of that, there is bleed through, and you actually get floating cities. Like there's a bit of woo aspect as well, and there's some stuff where you go, that looks kind of weird. Like there's a I think
floating cities were in China,
yeah, and so like, is that a mirage? Which feasibly makes sense that there's water vapor and it's a reflection, but
it's not a mirage. China just provides them a perfectly polluted place for a backdrop screen.
Oh, you mean the Winter Olympics? Have you seen that photo of the skiing ramp? And it's in a dystopian future. Like it's just burnt out. Is
this one coming up?
It's on now.
There's a Winter Olympics. It is it, right? Okay, I like the Winter Olympics. Where is it? China.
Yeah, it's in China. And here's the slope for the skiers, and then there's they pull back to a wide shot, and it's just desolate urban decay, and it's like, what movie is this from? And
I thought they would have totally gentrified everything around the area that they're taking cameras to.
Oh no, it's China. So I will I will share my political viewpoint of the Chinese Communist Party. They suck. Once again. And I use WhatsApp, so they know that. So they know that I think they suck.
Yeah, I know that for sure.
There's been all kinds of news coming from the Olympics about, all kinds of foul play on the Chinese side. It started already, right?
Oh, how much do you think they're cheating? And let's ask now.
It's not cheating. Do you
think because they're hosting it, do you think they're going to sporadically, magically come out with most gold medals and thinking because it's in the
Cortek, to back that up, Cortek,
to think you can get away with anything, to just do it.
To back that up, Cortek, they did arrest a Dutch journalist live on air.
Yeah. It's about how like the Nordic teams, their dress code is 2 centimeters too short, so it doesn't apply to the dress code unique to China, and there's a little bit of
So they're trying to tell the world what to do, basically, in a little kind of way.
It's just China being China. At this point, people should understand that.
Well, there was a bit of comedy that came out of it, though.
It's very odd telling people how to dress.
The United States bobsled team, bobsled team, have named their sled Biden because Biden has not made the country go downhill any faster.
I was about to say, go downhill fast. It's good.
Yeah. And they actually have it. Yeah. Go ahead, Bruce.
The thing you need to know about China, the only thing you need to understand about China, and this will save you about 7 years getting a PhD in international affairs with a specialization in China to work for the State Department.
Good, because I was just about to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, there's 2 sticks, no carrot. There you go. You got it all. Mm-hmm. 2 sticks, no carrot.
I am man with stick. I don't care about your piece of paper. And this is my colleague with a bigger stick. So take a that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you can see why they get upset where I refer to them as West Taiwan.
Yeah.
Well, like Burma is Myanmar or something like that, but everyone still calls it Burma. But that's just whitewashing of history because, the English elite named everything. Like Germany's not called Germany. It's Deutschland.
Have we checked in with Bhutan recently and their gross national happiness, whether that's working for them?
No.
It seemed like a really reasonable way to measure things at the time, that's all.
Yeah, I might have had a meeting last week. Let me have my girl check my calendar for you there, Cortek.
Okay, I'll hold the line.
Yes. Clown World. That's basically so. Yeah. And
so let's have a moment of reality here, and let's get back to this 2022. Because this is going to be a whopper of a year, man. Because
next year is,
this year, we're in it now. It's February.
Oh. Okay. Are you time traveling?
Oh, sorry.
Is it still December in Australia?
Well, just where Cortek is.
Just a little bit of latency on the call. That's all.
Yeah.
Take down your Christmas tree. I know you put it up yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, the fall solstice was pretty. The sun partied pretty hard in the fall solstice. This is a big hangover. 2022 is on hold. Sun has a hangover.
23 is going to be the kicker.
Now, 2022 is going to be a humdinger of a year, and it's going to signal the beginning of what I would call the major transformation, right? Where people.
I think we're ready.
Well, I'm not talking about large spiritual concepts here. That stuff's we're living the effect of that now. That stuff's already sort of happened. It's kind of like starlight, Cortek, like you're seeing it from 100 years ago.
Yeah, so, supernovas.
Yeah, but at the socioeconomic level, it's going to get to the point where they're going to start the Great Reset crunch, right? Because the name of the game is to bring so much misery into people's lives, they consent to the Great Reset. They consent. Now, people say to me all the time, well, Bruce, how can they be tyrants if they seek our consent? Consent is a very, very important thing down here. And even the most diabolical billion IQ negative entity possessing one of these people is not going to violate it because we I don't know how to put this. We are recognized by and understood by and known by our creator. And so if you call for help, you'll get help in some way, shape, or form. It may just be a coincidence, a dream, redirection of your life. But if you sincerely ask, you're going to get it. So what I see going on now on the streets and so 2022 is going to bring everybody to the crisis point. Everybody, it's going to be like New Delhi. The idea of living alone with your new wife at the age of 32 is going away. You're going to be living with your parents and your grandparents, like the Indians, like the Africans, like the Costa Ricans, like everybody else in the world. One of the things traveling and living abroad has taught me, and please, guys, don't bite my head off here, okay? But
I promise not to.
North Americans have the largest, and Australians have the largest energy footprint in the world. Nobody uses more interior conditioned space, heating in the winter, air conditioning in the summer, than the Five Eyes countries, okay? Nobody has more personal space than us. Even Monty. Monty lives alone. He's got a 2-bedroom apartment. If you were over here and you came from a Costa Rican family and you lived in San Jose, it would be your apartment. You'd live there alone, but there would always be 2 other family members crashing intermittently for 2 weeks here and there. You'd never really be alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's family timeshare. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the way most of the world works. It took me quite a while to get used to it over here because I lived a very alone life in Canada after my divorce. I just raised my son. I always lived alone in apartments, and now it's just, my wife's here 24/7. My nephews are here all the time. My in-laws drop in all the time, and it's just a much more communal way of living.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like the West has completely lost its way in that whole fashion of shipping the grandparents off to a nursing home to die, sitting static in front of a TV watching something they don't care about with another 20 people in the same room. It's not right. We lose. It's part of the road to destroy our mentors and anything else that might give us any kind of sovereignty over asking the government to do it. It's not right, and we need to find some way. Although this is why we leave home in the first place. Some way, like you're saying, drop-ins or something close, but not completely just push them away.
Yeah,
it's wrong.
The generation that was alive during World War II, they're finally disappearing, and the next wave is going to be the baby boomers who were born during the war, or a large chunk of them born after the war, and because it was a baby boom. Yeah, because like my grandmother, she would be 103 now, I think. She passed when she was 97, and it was like being 5 years ago. And so that generation that were, say, 10 and up, so if they were born in 1930,
97's a hell of a good innings.
Oh, yeah. But we're getting up to a century of we're a century from World War One, so that generation's gone. And then you've got the next generation, World War Two, which World War II starts, we're about just under 2 decades away. But you can see what I'm trying to say is like those old people that actually I was there, they're passing on. And so it's part of the, what's that 1984 quote? Those who control the present can control the past, which means they can control the future.
Yeah.
Damn that guy.
Yeah.
No, I think George was quite good, Roy. I mean, have you seen his cartoon about animals? It's a fantastic show. Animal Farm. Have you seen Animal Farm?
Yeah.
They animated that and bold move, but it's just kind of scary, and it's no Charlotte's Web. I'll give you that.
Book's always going to be better. How are your books going, Bruce?
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah. I'm not working on one now. I don't feel like writing any more books, I don't think, in 2022. I
Mm.
started a memoir of the mountain and stuff. I got about 20,000 words into it. I'll probably finish it over the next couple of years, but those three books in sequence, I think I'm good for a few years. I mean,
Yeah.
I got nothing left to say, or
Yeah, you went
nothing left,
hard.
nothing left to communicate, because those were all co-writes coming from the messages, the principal message of other people, right? But I got nothing left to co-write. I mean, I can't say anything more than Stardust Ranch, The Light of Darkness, and Galactic Historian. Those three books sum up what I think is going on in the world right now.
Yeah, and
So,
the energies of now are so weird, and there's that information overload as well, and it's like one day at a time. Just take one day at a time.
I don't think the future is, working for some employer for 50 years to get a gold watch. It is, depending on your attitude and how you look at the job, it is going in and finding these things that are interesting at the time, doing them really well, and then, why do you have mastering something else? We need a lot of
Actually,
stuff done, and it needs to have a lot of people wearing a lot of hats.
but at the same time, you could find a job that you love and work at the same one for 50 years. It's similar to like women coming into the workforce, and the narrative now is if someone's a traditional mother, like they wake up before their husband in the morning and they make them breakfast and they get the kids off and everything else like that, they get laughed at by people in the media because they keep pushing of like, oh, that's slavery. The thing is with the whole women's movement is it should be you weren't allowed to. You only could be a mother and stay at home and not become an astronaut. What is being twisted is like, yes, women have an opportunity to do anything, and of course they twisted that into the traditional. Are you new to the planet? Are you another? Is this the 18th walk-in for Cortek?
I think we've all just got to say fornicate the media and the dimwits on Twitter that people seem to be giving airtime to.
Let me finish. The way that it's being twisted, where they're trying to get rid of the traditional ways, which have been around for thousands of years. My point is, you have the option to do anything. And anything that you choose to do, as long as you're happy and not hurting anyone. If you want to stay at home and not have a career and raise 15 kids, awesome.
Do you get credit for trying to help millions of people instead of just yourself?
Boy, do I have a mountain for you.
Exactly. Now, on the other side of it, like say if Bruce's son decides I'm going to be a bachelor and I'm going to have 17 jobs and just go through everything because that's what...
you mean on that show? The Bachelor, about bachelors. I'm not sure what it's called.
No,
that's a completely
really
different show.
Why do you have to sully Planet Collingwood with this mindless dribble? What are you going to do next? Next up, ladies and gentlemen, Cortek with his Married at First Sight friggin' update.
The farmer wants a marry ceremony.
Yeah. The farmer wants a farm. My point is, it should be whatever you want to do. Like, if you want to just stay in the same, different jobs every 3 years. But what I think Cortek is bringing up is that it's the false choice that puts through where, you can only do this or this. And it's like, well, no, I mean, instead of, here's another option. You leave university and decide to start your own business and do it that way.
I love Bruce's idea of gaming out the future. It's far more funny. And when we kind of were joking about the, is it going to be Sigma or Omicron? They don't really have any catchy names left apart from those two. It seemed to bounce reality a little bit. It didn't come out like that. It came out like BA2 or some other tactic had to be chosen.
Yeah, I think they'll follow. They're finished with the Greek alphabet. They'll move on to the Roman alphabet because the Greeks came before the Romans.
We'll see.
It's a hot history joke, but there you go.
So we've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating. We're going through what the Soviet Union went through from like 87 to 92. But the difference was the Soviet Union knew there were no dissenters. I mean, maybe like 3 or 4%, like the high up government officials, the editors at Pravda, and that small population of any civilization, which is for reasons beyond all explanation.
No. I want to live. Excuse me. I want to live in shack and hope for one loaf of bread each week. This is my life. You are correct though. Yeah, it's like especially you could see. I mean, they call it the decadent West, but they could see other ways of living where they weren't treated like cattle, and the pressure of you could be taken to a gulag if you say something wrong.
Have you guys read that Ringing Cedars series yet? I think I've given it to both you guys.
No.
It gives an amazing insight on a book that is regarded in Russia pretty much as a folklore kind of story, and so much it inspired people to go back to land and find a little spot and tend to their own garden. It's super amazing, and you need to read the ones that I sent you that are the PDFs, because they've been rewritten. And actually, in some of the books, there's like 7 or 8 books, the magic is in the writing, and you can feel it when you're reading it. So a lot of this stuff was redacted.
Even in translation?
Afterwards, there was a republish. They kind of got republished.
You could feel the magic in the language, and I'm saying even
Yeah.
going from into English.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was. I don't think it was ever written in Russian.
What was it written in?
In English. It's like the Invisibles comic. It's like a hypersigil, which is something that uses wave phase conjugation to enhance itself by kind of being a copy of itself, kind of thing. It's any story that talks about itself in the story does that. And it's super interesting. It's very it's got some great environmental things. It's got some great things if you want to live off the land. It's got some great things if you want to plant food. It's got some great things like how to, if you're planting something from the seed, to make it produce fruit that is better for your DNA by having the seed under your tongue for a certain amount of time before you plant it, and all this kind of stuff when you're supposed to plant, and all this knowledge that we've completely lost shopping at the supermarket.
Yeah,
but I think we're at the point, instead of just wandering off on top of a mountain and be called a Unabomber, we're at the stage where that was a very small stage. The next stage is like, for me, I'm an entertainer, but I'm from a family of farmers. I'm not going to start farming. I suck at trying to do that. I tried, and it's like, this looks terrible. Instead of doing that, I should go meet and become friends with a farmer. And so it's building up the community where
tell him a few jokes and he gives you a big bag of veggies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, it's like become friends with a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, a farmer, and you build a community that way, and you can have that traditional village. Like, Bruce does say that he's left North America. Good thing. And he went up to the top of the hills and lives in an earthbag house. But there's 400 people around you, so you got your own. It's not really. Bruce isn't the hermit. You have that community there.
Yeah, there was a machete fight this weekend.
Whoa, details.
Was it angry? Was it an angry one, or was it a paid event like Don King?
Well, one of my neighbors. There's kind of it's a lot of detail here, but there's some characters on this mountain, right? And these people are known to smoke crack and stuff from time to time, and they drink a lot and stuff like that. And they're all fairly old. Like the guy who took the machete to the head, he had to go to the hospital, man. Now, the interesting thing was when the cops came up, everybody disappeared. Like nobody even gave a statement, right? And like the guy's brother is hiding out at my wife's mother's house. And I go over to visit my mother-in-law, and I go like, "Hey, Ramon, what are you doing here?" Oh, I wait. He speaks patois too. He's Jamaican. He speaks English, patois. I'm waiting for the policeman. I don't want to say nothing. I want my brother to go to jail, man. And I'm going cool, like, man. Well, what happened? And then my wife whips out her cell phone, and she's got all the pictures of like the.
Oh yes.
I said, well, somebody should go down there and make a statement. And my wife was going, shh, shut up.
Shut up, you North American twang.
Yeah. Right. So, but the people it happened between have known each other for 20 years. It's just that, the guy pulled the one who swung the machete was a woman. Okay, and she already did 5 years in federal penitentiary over here for stabbing a guy.
Yeah.
He's no stranger to the blade.
Well, it's like, you know, here in Australia, you know, there's facial recognition and, you know, the 5 eyes and everything else like that. But if you go to Greece, they've had that for centuries. It's just all the grandmas looking out their window and spying on their own neighborhood. You know,
the Venetians.
Yeah, like here in Australia, we had to invent something called Neighbourhood Watch. But, you know, all the Southern Europeans, it's like they know everything that happens. It's like, look, man come in from outside. Yeah, keep him, always leaving all going.
All the oldies who kind of are sick of looking through the blinds, and so just put the chairs out in the front porch and just out here. I'm sitting on the road. I'm just watching things go on. Yeah.
And I mean, we're making light of it, but it's because it works, and it's that sense of community where, you know, I've got friends who live in small towns, and even if it's 20,000 people living there, you kind of know everyone, or there's a 3-degree separation where everyone will, you know, if you sat down and talked to enough people, it's in less than 3 minutes you go, oh, I know this person and this person and this person. And so now in the big cities, you can get lost. Like, I'm a hermit in the middle of a city, and I hardly meet anyone. I know a lot of people because I was in nightclubs for 2 decades, but you know what my point is. Like, if I move into a house next to Bruce, in less than a month, I would probably know everyone there.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I will tell you next week, because it's the end of Planet Collingwood. Thank you for listening on Revolution Radio Studio A. If you enjoyed it, donate to the station and or myself. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share, because, you know, algorithms. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Cortek. Thank you, Raz. We'll be back in 6 days in 22 hours. And I'm all praise to Cookie. Cat, Cookie Cat. We'll see you soon.